They say a mother's love is unconditional, that she'll sacrifice everything for her child's dreams. My mother taught me that was a lie. The day I found those crumpled acceptance letters in the trash can behind our house, everything I thought I knew about my life shattered like glass. But what she didn't know, what she couldn't have known, was that I'd made copies of every single one. This is the story of how my mother tried to steal my future and how I fought like hell to take it back.
Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The Oklahoma summer heat made our small house in Riverside feel like a pressure cooker, and on that July morning in 2019, I was counting down the days until I could escape. My name is Claire Ford, and at 17, I'd spent my entire life in this town of 8,000 people where everyone knew your business before you did. I woke up at 5:30 a.m., like I had every morning for the past 2 years. The alarm on my phone buzzed next to my pillow, and I silenced it quickly, not wanting to wake my younger brother Mason, who was sleeping in the room across the hall. Our house was small, a 3-bedroom ranch style with peeling yellow paint and a front porch that sagged in the middle. My mom, Patricia Ford, had bought it after the divorce when I was 12, using what little money Dad left us with before he disappeared to Arizona with his new girlfriend. I pulled on my Riverside High School t-shirt and a pair of shorts, grabbed my running shoes, and slipped out the front door. The streets were empty except for old Mr. Henderson walking his beagle down Maple Avenue. He waved, and I waved back, already building up my pace. Running was my escape. My meditation, my proof that I could push my body beyond what seemed possible. As my feet hit the pavement in a steady rhythm, I ran past the familiar landmarks of my childhood. The Dairy Queen, where I had my first job at 15, the public library where I'd spent countless afternoons buried in books, dreaming of bigger places, the water tower with Class of 2016 spray-painted on it in faded orange letters. Every building, every street corner held a memory. And lately, they all felt like chains. By 6:45 a.m., I was back home, sweating through my shirt. Mom's car was still in the driveway. She didn't start her shift at Morrison's Manufacturing until 8. I found her in the kitchen, still in her bathrobe, drinking coffee and scrolling through her phone. She barely looked up when I entered. "Morning," I said, heading straight for the refrigerator. "Your brother needs a ride to basketball camp today. I can't take him. They moved my shift up." "Mom, I have my shift at the diner at 10. "Figure it out, Claire. I can't be in 2 places at once." This was our relationship now. Transactional. Cold. It hadn't always been this way. I remember when I was younger, maybe 8 or 9, she'd take Mason and me to the lake on Sundays. She'd pack sandwiches and we'd stay until sunset, and she'd actually smile. Real smiles that reached her eyes. I couldn't remember the last time I'd seen one of those. After showering, I drove Mason to basketball camp in my beat-up 2004 Honda Civic that I'd bought with my own money saved from 2 years of waitressing. The car rattled, and the air conditioning barely worked, but it was mine. Mason sat in the passenger seat, absorbed in his phone, his gangly 13-year-old frame all elbows and knees. "Are you nervous about high school?" I asked him. He shrugged. "Not really." "You should be taking it more seriously, Mace. Your grades matter for college." He looked at me like I'd grown a second head. "Mom says college is a waste of money, says I should learn a trade or something." I gripped the steering wheel tighter. Of course, she did. "Don't listen to her," I said quietly. "You can do whatever you want with your life." I dropped him off and made it to the diner with 5 minutes to spare. Rosie's Diner had been a Riverside institution since 1962, and working there felt like stepping back in time. Red vinyl booths, a black and white checkered floor, a jukebox in the corner that still played actual records. My boss, Rosie herself, was 73 and had owned the place for 40 years. The morning rush was already underway. I knew most of the customers by name: Frank Patterson, who always ordered 2 eggs over easy and wheat toast; Deputy Stevens, who had graduated with my mom and still asked about her every time he came in. "How's Patricia doing?" he asked, as predictable as sunrise. "She's fine, just busy with work," I replied, pouring his coffee. "You tell her I said hello, and Claire heard you got a full ride to State. That's really something." I forced a smile, but State wasn't even my dream school. It was my safety net, my guaranteed escape route. I'd applied to 12 schools total, casting a wide net across the country. The real letters I was waiting for were from Stanford, Columbia, Northwestern, schools that felt as distant as the moon, but that I dared to dream about anyway. My grades were perfect: 4.0 GPA, top of my class, editor of the school newspaper, captain of the debate team. I built the perfect application while Mom watched reality TV and complained about her feet hurting from the factory. When I got home that afternoon, the house was quiet. Mom was still at work. Mason wouldn't be back from basketball camp until 5. I had 2 precious hours to myself. I climbed the stairs to my room, my sanctuary. One wall was covered with college pendants I'd collected: Stanford, Yale, MIT, Brown, dreams made of fabric and felt. I pulled out my laptop and checked my email for the 100th time that day. Still nothing from the Ivy Leagues. But there was a message from Mrs. Chen, my school counselor, asking me to stop by the office on Monday. My heart skipped. Could it be about early admission results?
A car door slammed outside. Mom was home early. I found her in the kitchen, heating up leftover casserole in the microwave. "How was work?" I asked. "Same as always. They're talking about layoffs again." She looked at me then, really looked at me, and something flickered in her eyes. "You know, Claire, I've been thinking about next year, about you going to state." My stomach dropped at her tone. "It's just, college costs more than just tuition, even with a scholarship. And with the layoffs coming, I might need you to stick around, help out more with Mason and the bills." "Mom, we've talked about this. The scholarship covers room and board. I've saved money for books and expenses." "What about Mason? What about me? You think you can just leave us here to struggle while you go off and play student?" "Your future," she laughed, a bitter sound. "Let me tell you about futures, Claire. I had a future once, was gonna be a nurse, had the grades, had the acceptance letter. Then I got pregnant with you, and all those futures disappeared." It wasn't the first time she'd made me feel responsible for her broken dreams, but it hit differently that day. "That wasn't my fault," I said quietly. "I didn't ask to be born." "No, you didn't, but here we are." She turned back to the microwave, dismissing me. I went back to my room, closed the door, and let the tears come silently. That night, I lay in bed thinking about escape. In 6 months, I'd be 18. In 8 months, I'd be moving into a dorm room somewhere, anywhere but here. I just had to hold on. I didn't know then that survival was about to get much harder. I didn't know that Mom was planning something that would test every ounce of my strength. I didn't know that the copies I'd made of my application materials, a paranoid precaution after she'd had accidentally spilled coffee on my state scholarship papers, would become the only thing standing between me and a future trapped in Riverside. All I knew that night was that something had to change. The pressure was building, like the Oklahoma summer heat that made everything feel like it was about to explode. I fell asleep making plans, dreaming of acceptance letters, and trying to ignore the voice in my head that whispered that dreams like mine didn't come true for girls from nowhere. But hope and determination, I was about to learn, were sometimes the only weapons you needed. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now, back to the story. Monday morning arrived with unseasonable September rain hammering against my bedroom window. Senior year had started 3 weeks ago, and the routine of classes, homework, and college applications had taken over my life. I dressed carefully that day, my best jeans and a crisp white blouse, because Mrs. Chen's email had mentioned important news regarding your applications. The school hallways buzzed with the usual Monday chaos: lockers slamming, couples reuniting after the weekend, the smell of industrial cleaner mixing with cheap body spray. I navigated through it all like a ghost, my mind focused on one destination: the guidance counselor's office. Mrs. Chen was waiting for me with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes.
At 52, she'd been my advocate for 3 years, the only adult who truly believed in my potential. Her walls office were covered with college pennants from former students, a rainbow of dreams realized. "Claire, come in. Close the door, please." My heart hammered as I sat in the worn chair across from her desk. She had a manila folder in front of her, thick with papers. "I wanted to talk to you about something unusual that happened last week," she began, her fingers drumming on the folder. "I received a phone call from your mother." The room suddenly felt smaller. "What?" "She called asking about your college applications. Specifically, she wanted to know where I'd been sending correspondence and if there were any acceptance letters that had arrived at the school." Blood rushed to my ears. "What did you tell her?" "I told her that was confidential information between you and me, per your request." "But Claire," Mrs. Chen leaned forward, concern etching lines across her forehead. "She was very persistent, almost aggressive. She claimed she had a right to know as your parent." I felt sick. How had Mom found out about Mrs. Chen? I had been so careful. "There's more," Mrs. Chen continued. "After that call, I decided to check in with the universities you've applied to. I wanted to make sure everything was in order." She opened the folder, revealing a stack of letters. "These arrived for you over the past 2 weeks. I've been holding them here, as we agreed." My hands trembled as I reached for the envelopes. Columbia, Northwestern, Stanford, all thick packets, the good kind, the kind that meant yes. "Claire, you got in. To all of them." Mrs. Chen's voice cracked with emotion. "Full scholarships to Columbia and Northwestern. Stanford offered a partial scholarship that would still leave you with minimal debt." I couldn't breathe. Couldn't process. 3 of the top universities in the country wanted me. Little Claire Ford from Riverside, Oklahoma. Population 8,000. That's incredible," I whispered, tears blurring my vision. "It is. You should be celebrating." Mrs. Chen paused. "But I'm worried about something else. After your mother's call, I did something I probably shouldn't have. I drove by your house over the weekend." "You what?" "Claire, I saw her going through your mailbox. Then she went around back to your trash cans. She was looking for something." "The acceptance letters. She's looking for acceptance letters." "I think so, which is why I'm keeping them here." Mrs. Chen tapped the folder. "I've also contacted the universities and requested that all future correspondence come directly to the school. But Claire, we need to talk about what happens next. Your mother seems determined to interfere with your college plans." I stared at the letters in my hands, their weight suddenly crushing. "She doesn't think college is for girls like me," she said it 100 times. "Girls like us are supposed to stay here, get factory jobs, have kids early, and die in the same town we were born in." "And what do you think?" "I think she's wrong. I think she's scared. I took a shaky breath. "I think she's trying to trap me in the same life that trapped her." Mrs. Chen nodded slowly. "I need to ask you something serious. Do you feel safe at home?" The question hung in the air. Did I? Mom had never hit me, never physically harmed me, but there were other ways to hurt someone, other ways to destroy them. "She won't hurt me," I said finally. "Not like that, but she'll sabotage me if she can. She'll find a way." "Then we need a plan." Mrs. Chen pulled out a notebook. "First, all important documents stay here. Second, we need to set up a separate email account that she can't access. Third, when it's time to make your decision, we'll do it from this office. She won't be able to interfere." We spent the next hour strategizing, planning for every scenario we could imagine. When I finally left her office clutching copies of my acceptance letters that Mrs. Chen had made for me, I felt like a soldier preparing for war. The rest of the school day passed in a blur. I couldn't focus in AP literature, barely heard a word in calculus. My best friend, Sarah Martinez, cornered me at lunch. "Okay, spill. You've been weird all day. What's going on?" I couldn't tell her. couldn't risk it somehow getting back to Mom. Just stressed about applications, you know how it is. She didn't look convinced, but she let it go. Sarah had gotten into the University of Oklahoma on a softball scholarship. Her parents had thrown her a party. There was a cake with "Future Sooner" written in crimson and cream frosting. I'd gone to that party and smiled and congratulated her, while my own acceptances sat hidden in a counselor's office like shameful secrets. When I got home that afternoon, I found Mom in the living room, which was strange. She usually wasn't home until after 6. She was sitting on the couch, still in her Morrison's manufacturing uniform, staring at nothing. "Mom, are you okay? Why are you home?" She turned to look at me and her eyes were red-rimmed. "They announced the layoffs today. I'm done in 2 weeks." My stomach dropped. This was bad. Really bad. Without her income, we'd lose the house within months. "Mom, I'm so sorry. Maybe you can find something else. Or maybe..." "Maybe what, Claire? There's nothing else in this town. Morrison's was it. 20 years I gave them, and this is how they repay me." She laughed bitterly. "You know what's funny? I was going to quit anyway. Was going to tell them to shove their job right up there."
Mom, please, we'll figure this out. She stood up, swaying slightly, and I realized she'd been drinking. A bottle of vodka sat half empty on the coffee table. Figure it out? Like you're figuring out college? Like you're planning your big escape while your family falls apart? That's not fair. I've been working, saving money, trying to help. Help! She moved closer, and I could smell the alcohol on her breath. You want to help? Then forget this college nonsense. Get a real job. Take care of your brother. Be responsible for once in your selfish life. The words hit like physical blows. Selfish, irresponsible, all because I wanted more than this. "I'm going to college, Mom. I've worked too hard." "We'll see about that." The threat in her voice made my blood run cold. She pushed past me, heading toward the stairs, toward my room. "Mom, where are you going?" She didn't answer. I heard her footsteps heavy on the stairs, heard my bedroom door slam open. I raced up after her to find her tearing through my desk, pulling out drawers, scattering papers. "Mom, stop! What are you doing?" "Where are they? I know they're here. Those fancy schools, they would have sent something by now." She was looking for the acceptance letters, looking for proof of my dreams so she could destroy them. "There's nothing here, Mom. I haven't heard from anyone yet." She whirled on me, eyes blazing. Liar. Mrs. Chen called me back today, said she couldn't tell me anything, but I could hear it in her voice. "You got in somewhere, didn't you? Where, Claire? Where are you planning to abandon us to?" I'd never seen her like this, wild, desperate, dangerous. She moved to my closet, started pulling out boxes. "Mom, please, you're drunk. Let's talk about this tomorrow." She found my escape fund, the shoebox with $3,000 carefully saved over 2 years. She opened it and for a moment just stared at the money. "Planning your escape," she whispered, "while we starve, while your brother goes without, while I lose everything? That money is for books and supplies. Mom, please." But she wasn't listening anymore. She grabbed the box and stormed out of my room, down the stairs, out the front door. I chased after her, but she was already in her car, backing out of the driveway with my entire future in a shoebox on the passenger seat. I stood in the front yard, rain soaking through my clothes, watching her taillights disappear down Maple Avenue. Mr. Henderson was staring from his porch. Mrs. Wilson had her curtains pulled back, watching the show. Let them stare. Let them whisper. Let the whole town know that Patricia Ford was unraveling. I walked back inside, went to my room, and surveyed the damage. Papers everywhere, drawers pulled out, my careful organization destroyed. But she hadn't found what she was looking for. The real acceptance letters were safe with Mrs. Chen.
The copies were hidden in a place she'd never think to look, inside the lining of my old teddy bear, Mr. Whiskers, who sat on my shelf collecting dust. I pulled him down and carefully extracted the folded papers from his seam. Columbia, Northwestern, Stanford. My tickets out of hell. Still intact. Mom came home at midnight. Without the money, without explanations. She went straight to her room and locked the door. The next morning, she acted like nothing had happened, but everything had changed. The war had begun, and I needed to be ready for whatever came next.
The week after Nam stole my savings felt like walking through quicksand. Every step forward seemed to pull me deeper into an impossible situation. I'd lost $3,000, money I couldn't report stolen without destroying what was left of my family. Mom avoided me completely, leaving for job interviews that I suspected were actually bar visits, based on the empties I found hidden in the garage. Mason noticed the tension. He'd started eating dinner in his room, headphones on, eyes down. He was 13 and smart enough to know our family was imploding, but too young to do anything about it. On Thursday after school, I walked into Riverside Community Bank, my hand shaking as I approached the teller window. "I need to open an account," I told the young woman whose name tag read Jennifer. "Certainly. Will this be a joint account with a parent?" "No, just me. I am 17, but I'll be 18 in 3 months." Jennifer's smile faltered. "I'm sorry, but minors need a parent or guardian to co-sign." Of course they did. Everything required a parent's permission I'd never get. I left the bank feeling defeated and noticed Mr. Bernard, my AP economics teacher, walking out of the post office across the street. "Claire, how are the college applications coming?" "Good, Mr. Bernard. Really good, actually." I forced brightness into my voice. "That's wonderful. You know, you remind me of my daughter. She's at Harvard now, but she had similar challenges with—" He paused delicately. "Family support." Something in his tone made me look up. He knew. Somehow he knew. "Mr. Bernard, can I ask you something, hypothetically?" "Of course." If someone's parent was trying to sabotage their college plans, what would that person do? He studied me for a long moment. Hypothetically? That person would need to secure their important documents, create a paper trail of their own competence and independence, and possibly seek legal emancipation, but that's a drastic step. He pulled out his wallet and handed me a business card. "This is my brother-in-law. He's a lawyer in Oklahoma City. He does pro bono work for students in difficult situations. The consultation is free." I took the card, tears pricking my eyes. "Thank you. Claire, whatever you're facing, don't let anyone steal your future, not even family." That night, I researched emancipation laws until 2 a.m. In Oklahoma, I could petition for emancipation at 17 if I could prove financial self-sufficiency and that it was in my best interest. But the process took months, required court appearances, and worst of all, my mother would have to be notified. The thought of standing in a courtroom, publicly declaring I wanted to legally divorce my mother, made me physically ill. What would that do to Mason? What would the town say? Deputy Stevens, Rosie, Mrs. Wilson next door? They'd all know I'd rejected my own mother. But what choice did I have? Friday morning, I found Mom in the kitchen for the first time in days. She was making coffee, her movements mechanical. "Claire, we need to talk." "About?" "About us, about you in college." She sat at the table, gesturing for me to join her. Warily, I did. She continued, "I've been doing some thinking. Maybe I overreacted about the college thing. Maybe state isn't such a bad idea." Hope fluttered dangerously in my chest. "Really?" "Yeah. I mean, it's only 2 hours away. You could come home on weekends, help with Mason. It's a compromise." A compromise. She was offering me state, my safety school, my least desired option, while my real acceptances to Columbia, Northwestern, and Stanford sat hidden away. "What about the money you took?" I asked carefully. Her jaw tightened. "I used it to pay bills, Claire. Kept the lights on. You should be thanking me for keeping a roof over your head, not interrogating me about money. That was 2 years of savings. And this is 18 years of me raising you, or does that not count for anything?" I saw the trap then. Given on the small things, state, staying close, or she'd escalate. She was offering me scraps while pretending it was generosity. I need to think about it, I said. Think about it? Her eyes went cold. There's nothing to think about. You'll go to state, live at home to save money, and help this family like you should have been doing all along. I never said I'd live at home. Claire, don't push me. I'm trying to be reasonable here. Reasonable. She'd stolen my money, invaded my privacy, and now she was rewriting reality where she was the reasonable one. I have to get to school, I said, standing. We're not done talking about this. Yes, we are. I grabbed my backpack and left before she could respond, but as I drove to school, doubt crept in. Was I being selfish? Mason would be alone with her. The bills were real. Maybe state wasn't so bad. I could still be a lawyer from state, still make something of myself. By the time I parked at school, I'd almost convinced myself that compromise was the mature choice. Then I saw Sarah in the parking lot, wearing her University of Oklahoma hoodie, and remembered what it felt like to have parents who supported your dreams. Mrs. Chen found me at lunch. Claire, a moment? In her office, she had more news. Columbia sent their financial aid package. It's better than we thought. Between grants, scholarships, and work study, you'd have less than $3,000 in loans total for 4 years at an Ivy League school.
$3,000, the exact amount Mom had stolen. That's incredible, I whispered. There's something else. Mrs. Chen pulled out another letter. This came from Stanford yesterday. They want you to apply for the Questbridge scholarship. If you get it, it would cover everything. Tuition, room, board, books, even travel expenses. Full ride, no loans. Why are you showing me this? The question came out broken. Because you need to remember what you're fighting for. Don't let fear or guilt make you settle for less than you deserve. But that afternoon, guilt found me anyway. I came home to find Mason sitting on the front porch, his basketball beside him, tears on his face. Mace, what's wrong? Coach says I need new shoes for the season. Mine are too small. But Mom said there's no money. She said it's because you're being selfish about college. My heart cracked. That's not true. I'll get you shoes. How? You don't have any money. Mom told me you spent it all on college applications. Another lie. Another manipulation. She took my money, Mace. For bills, she said. He looked at me with old eyes. Are you really leaving us? I'm not leaving you. I'm going to school. There is a difference. Feels the same to me. He went inside, leaving me on the porch with the weight of his words. That night, I lay awake thinking about all the ways I could fail. What if I chose wrong? What if going to Columbia meant Mason ended up resenting me forever? What if Mom's prediction came true and I couldn't handle it, came crawling back, proving her right? The fear was paralyzing. I pulled out my phone and Googled, "Signs you're making the right decision." The articles were useless. They talked about gut feelings and inner peace and knowing your truth. But my gut was in knots. There was no peace, and my truth felt like it was splitting me in two. At midnight, I heard Mom come home, heard her pause outside my door. The handle turned slowly. She was checking if it was locked. I held my breath until her footsteps retreated. Saturday morning, I had to work a double shift at Rosie's. As I refilled coffee and took orders, I watched the people of Riverside. Mrs. Patterson, who'd worked at the grocery store for 30 years. Billy Thompson, who'd taken over his dad's auto shop at 18. The Morrison twins, who'd both gotten pregnant at 17 and now worked as cashiers while their mom watched their kids. Was this my future if I stayed? Would I be here in 20 years, still pouring coffee, still dreaming of what could have been? Deputy Stevens sat at the counter. Your mama doing okay? Heard about Morrison's closing. She's managing, I lied. Tough break, but hey, at least she's got you to help out, right? Family takes care of family. Family takes care of family, the town's mantra, the chain that kept everyone locked in place. Rosie pulled me aside during my break. Claire, honey, I heard some things. What things? About you and your mama having troubles, about college. She patted my hand. Sometimes the best thing we can do for family is stay close. The world out there, it's not kind to girls from places like this. Your mama knows that. Maybe you should listen.
Even Rosie, who I'd thought understood me, was siding with staying small, staying safe, staying trapped. When I got home that night, exhausted and emotionally drained, I found an envelope on my bed. No address, no stamp. Mom must have put it there. Inside was a brochure for Morrison Manufacturing's training program. "Great careers without college debt," the headline screamed. A handwritten note was attached in Mom's sharp handwriting. "They're hiring for the training class. I put in a good word. Starts in September. Better than drowning in student loans for a degree you'll never use. Think about your brother. Think about your family. Stop being selfish." End of note. I stared at that note for a long time. September, when I should be moving into a dorm at Columbia or Northwestern or Stanford, when I should be starting the life I'd worked so hard for. Instead, she wanted me in the same factory that had laid her off, the same building where dreams went to die. The internal war raged all night. Part of me wanted to march downstairs, tear up that brochure, and tell her I'd rather die than work at Morrison. But the other part, the part that loved my brother, that remembered good times with Mom and feared the unknown, whispered that maybe she was right. Maybe girls like me didn't belong at places like Columbia. Maybe I was being selfish. Maybe I should just give up and accept my place. By Sunday morning, I still didn't have answers. Just more questions, more doubts, more fear. The acceptance letters hidden in Mr. Whiskers felt like they belonged to someone else. Some other Claire who was brave enough to leave, strong enough to disappoint her family, selfish enough to choose herself. I didn't know if I was that Claire, but I was about to find out.
The decision came to me in the most unexpected place, standing in front of the bathroom mirror on Monday morning, my mother's old nursing school photo staring back at me from where it sat wedged in the frame's edge. She looked so young in that picture, 20 years old, wearing scrubs, her smile genuine and full of hope. I had seen that photo 1,000 times, but that morning it hit differently. She'd had dreams once, real dreams, and she'd let them die. I wouldn't do the same. My hands stopped shaking as I applied mascara. The girl in the mirror wasn't the scared 17-year-old anymore. She was someone who'd made a choice. I was going to Columbia. The certainty settled into my bones like steel. I grabbed my phone and texted Mrs. Chen. "Need to meet before first period. It's time." Her response came immediately. "I'll be waiting." Mom was still asleep when I left. She'd been sleeping later and later, depression or alcohol or both, keeping her in bed. Mason was eating cereal at the kitchen table, still not talking to me beyond necessary words. "Mace," I said, sitting across from him, "I need you to know something." He didn't look up from his bowl. "I'm going to Columbia, in New York, and I know you're mad, and I know Mom's making you think I'm abandoning you, but that's not true." Now he looked at me, his eyes hard. "Sounds like abandoning to me. What if I told you that me going to Columbia means you can go anywhere you want to? What if I showed you that you don't have to stay in Riverside just because you were born here?" Easy for you to say. You're leaving me with her. The accusation stung because it was true. I know, and I'm sorry. But Mace, if I stay, we both lose. If I go, at least one of us wins. And maybe I can pave the way for you. He was quiet for a moment. "Columbia is that school in New York, right? The one from Gossip Girl?" Despite everything, I almost smiled. "Yeah, that's the one. That's pretty cool, I guess." He stood up, grabbed his backpack. "Just don't forget about me when you're living your fancy New York life. Never." He paused at the door. "And Claire, Mom's been going through your room when you're not home, just so you know." The warning sent a chill through me, but I nodded. "Thanks, Mace." At school, Mrs. Chen was waiting, with coffee and determination written across her face. "You've decided." "Columbia. I'm accepting Columbia." Her smile was brilliant. "I was hoping you'd say that. Now, let's make it official before anything can go wrong." We spent first period in her office calling Columbia's admissions office, confirming my acceptance, setting up my student portal, and arranging my course registration date. With each step, the dream became more real. "We need to talk about the practical side," Mrs. Chen said, pulling out a folder she'd clearly prepared in advance. "Housing deposit, course selection, orientation dates. And Claire, we need to discuss how you're going to handle the next few months at home." "I don't know," I admitted.
I can't tell her yet. She'll find a way to sabotage it. You're 18 in 3 months. December 3rd, right? I nodded. Okay, here's what we're going to do. Mrs. Chen pulled out a calendar. You tell her about Columbia the day after your 18th birthday. That gives you legal independence. In the meantime, we handle everything through the school. All deposits, all paperwork, everything. I'll even set up a P.O. box at the post office in my name for any physical documents. You do that? Claire, I've been a guidance counselor for 23 years. I've seen too many brilliant students lose their futures because of family sabotage. Not on my watch. We created a detailed plan. Every document would be copied and stored in 3 places. My student email would be checked only at school. All financial aid forms would be completed in Mrs. Chen's office. We even discussed having important mail sent to Mr. Bernard's house, since he'd offered to help. What about money? I asked. Mom took everything I saved.
I talked to the financial aid office. They're willing to provide an emergency advance for students in difficult situations. It's not much, $500, but it'll get you started. And Columbia has a student emergency fund for situations like yours. $500. It wasn't the $3,000 Mom stole, but it was hope. That afternoon, I worked my shift at Rosie's with new purpose. Every table I served, every tip I earned was another brick in my escape route. When Rosie asked if I'd thought about her suggestion to stay close to family, I smiled and said, I'm thinking about what's best for everyone. It wasn't a lie. Leaving was what was best for everyone, even if Mom couldn't see it yet. After work, I stopped at the library and used their computer to research New York City. I looked up the subway system, mapped out the campus, found the nearest grocery stores. I read student blogs about surviving your first year at Columbia. I made lists of what to pack, what to buy, how to prepare. Sarah found me. There, hunched over the computer with notebooks spread around me. Okay, seriously, what's going on with you? You've been acting weird for weeks. I looked at my best friend, the girl who'd known me since 3rd grade, and made another decision. Can you keep a secret? Like a really big secret that you can't tell anyone, not even your parents? Of course. I told her everything. The acceptance letters, Mom's sabotage, the stolen money, the plan to leave for New York. Her eyes got wider with each revelation. Holy shit, Claire. Your mom? That's insane. I know. But Columbia, that's incredible. You're getting out. Her enthusiasm was infectious. For the first time, I let myself feel excited rather than terrified. I need your help, I said. I need someone who can receive packages, someone Mom won't suspect. Can things be sent to your house? Absolutely. My parents will be thrilled. They always said your mom was, she trailed off, crazy, controlling, a dream killer. I was going to say complicated, but yeah, all of those. We spent an hour planning. Sarah would be my local contact, my safe person. If something went wrong, I could stay at her house. Her parents already knew something was off with my home situation. Apparently, the whole town knew, but small-town politeness meant no one said anything directly. When I got home that evening, the house was dark. Mom's car was gone. A note on the kitchen table read, "Went to Oklahoma City. Job interview. Back late. There's leftovers." A job interview. Or more likely, a bar. But I didn't care. Her absence gave me space to breathe. I went to my room and pulled out a notebook. I started writing letters. One to Mason, explaining everything, to be given to him only if things went completely wrong. One to Mrs. Chen, thanking her for everything. One to Sarah, telling her she was the sister I never had. Then I wrote one to Mom. Not an angry letter, not an accusatory one, just honest. Mom, I know you think I'm being selfish. I know you believe college will ruin me, change me into someone you don't recognize. But I need you to understand staying here will kill me. Not physically, but the part of me that dreams, that hopes, that believes in possibilities. You lost your dreams when you had me. I'm sorry for that. I really am. But I can't let your lost dreams become my excuse to lose mine too. I love you. I'll always love you. But I'm going to Columbia. And maybe someday you'll be proud of me for having the courage you didn't have at my age. Your daughter, Claire. I folded it carefully and put it in my desk drawer. I wouldn't give it to her yet, not until I was 18, not until I had legal independence. But writing it made the decision feel final. Mom came home at midnight, stumbling and drunk. I heard her call my name, heard her trip over something in the hallway, heard her crying in her room. Part of me wanted to go to her, comfort her, tell her everything would be okay, but I stayed in my bed, my door locked, my acceptance letter to Columbia hidden safely away, because I'd learned that you couldn't save someone who was determined to drown, and I couldn't let her pull me under with her. The next morning, I woke up with a new resolve. I'd made my choice. Columbia, New York, a future. Now, I just had to survive the next 3 months without my mother discovering the truth. The war wasn't over. In fact, it was about to get much worse. But I'd chosen my side. I'd chosen myself. And there was no going back now.
October brought crisp air and the first real taste of freedom. With my Columbia acceptance secured and Mrs. Chen running interference, I started living a double life. At home, I played the obedient daughter considering state. At school, I was preparing for New York. The first win came 2 weeks after my decision. Mrs. Chen called me into her office with barely contained excitement. "You got the Questbridge scholarship." I stared at her, not comprehending. "What?" "Stanford's Questbridge. Full ride. Everything covered. Claire, you applied to it, remember? I helped you with the essay last month." The essay. I'd written it at 2 a.m., pouring my heart out about growing up poor in rural Oklahoma, about my mother's sabotage, about fighting for an education. I'd honestly forgotten about it in the chaos. "I got it?" "You got it. Full scholarship to Stanford. No loans, no debt, nothing. They even cover travel home for holidays." Stanford, California, as far from Oklahoma as I could get while staying in America. But I already accepted Columbia. "You can change your mind. You have until November 15th to make your final decision." Mrs. Chen leaned forward. "Claire, this is 2 Ivy League equivalent schools fighting over you. Do you understand how rare that is?" I did understand, and it terrified me. 1 acceptance felt like a miracle. 2 felt like the universe was testing me, asking if I really believed I deserved this. "Can I think about it?" "Of course. But Claire, you're winning. Remember that." I walked out of her office feeling like I was floating. 2 full-ride scholarships. Me, Claire Ford, from nowhere, Oklahoma. The second win came at Rosie's Diner that weekend. Mr. Bernard walked in with his wife and sat in my section. "Claire, perfect timing. I wanted to introduce you to Margaret. She teaches at Columbia." His wife smiled warmly. "Political Science Department. Mr. Bernard told me about your situation. I want you to know, when you get to campus, you'll have support. Faculty housing is right near the freshman dorms. You need anything at all, you come find me." I nearly dropped my order pad. "You do that? For me?" "Honey, I was a first-generation student too. Nobody handed me anything. I know what you're going through." She slid a card across the table. "My personal cell. Save it, use it." For the first time, New York didn't feel quite so lonely. The third win was Mason. One evening, I found him in his room actually doing homework instead of playing video games. "What's this?" I teased. He shrugged, embarrassed. "If you can get into Columbia, maybe I can get into somewhere good too. But I gotta start now, right?" My heart swelled. Right. Want help with that algebra? We spent an hour working through problems together, and it felt like old times, before Mom's bitterness had poisoned everything, before college had become a battleground. "Claire," he said as I was leaving, "I looked up Columbia. Those libraries are insane." "Yeah?" "Yeah. And I saw the subway map. Looks complicated." "It is. You're gonna figure it out, though. You figure everything out." It was the closest he had come to saying he supported me, and it was enough. But with each win came new challenges that threatened everything. The first challenge appeared when I came home from school to find Mom sitting at the kitchen table with my laptop open. "Interesting websites you've been visiting," she said calmly. Too calmly.
New York City subway maps, Columbia University bookstore, dorm room essentials for college freshmen. My blood ran cold. I had been so careful at home, only looking at New York stuff at school, but I had forgotten she had access to our shared iCloud account. I was just researching, in case I decide on state I wanted to compare. Don't lie to me, Claire. You've been planning this behind my back. She stood up, and I saw the rage barely contained beneath her composed exterior. You think you're so smart? Think you can fool me? Mom, let me explain. There's nothing to explain. You're not going anywhere. I've already made calls. What calls? To state. Told them you'd be accepting their offer. Paid your housing deposit with your college fund. What college fund? There is no college fund. She smiled, and it was cruel. The one your grandmother left you. The one I've been managing. $5,000. Gone. All paid to state for your freshman year housing. I felt like I'd been punched. Grandma left me money? It was supposed to be for college. Well, you're going to college. State. It's done. My grandmother had died when I was 14. I'd never known about any money. Mom had hidden it, saved it, and now weaponized it. That's fraud. You can't just... I'm your mother. I can do whatever I need to do to protect you from your own stupidity. She walked out, leaving me shaking with rage and fear. I immediately texted Mrs. Chen, who called me within minutes. Can she do that? I asked.
Legally? If she's the custodian of the account, probably yes. But Claire, it doesn't matter. You're not going to state. We'll figure this out. The second challenge came from an unexpected source. Sarah called me, crying. My parents said I can't help you anymore. What? Why? Your mom called them, said I was encouraging you to abandon your family, that I was being a bad influence. My dad, Claire, he works with your mom's cousin at the hardware store. He's worried about causing problems. It's okay, Sarah. I understand. No, it's not okay. She's isolating you. But Sarah was right. Mom was systematically cutting off my support system. The next day, I got called into Principal Matthews' office. Claire, your mother came to see me. She's concerned about you being overwhelmed, taking too many AP classes, working too much. She's requested we reduce your course load. She what? She says you're burning out, that you're not sleeping, that this college obsession is unhealthy. Principal Matthews, I have a 4.0 GPA. I'm top of my class. I know, which is why I'm not making any changes. But Claire, I have to document that she made this request. It's concerning. Concerning. Mom was building a paper trail, making it look like I was unstable, obsessed, unreliable. The third challenge hit the hardest. I came home one Friday to find Mom had changed the locks. I stood on the porch, my key refusing to turn, and knocked. Mason opened the door, his face pale. Mom says you can come in, but you have to give her your car keys and your phone. What? Mom appeared behind him. You've been sneaking around, lying, plotting, no more. You want to live under my roof, you follow my rules. No phone except the house phone. No car except when I say. No internet, nothing, until you accept that you're going to state like a reasonable person. I'm not giving you my phone. Then sleep on the porch. She meant it. I could see it in her eyes. Fine. I handed over my keys. But not my phone. That's mine. I paid for it. And you pay for the plan. Give it to me or leave. Mason looked at me pleadingly. Don't leave, his eyes said. Don't make this worse. I gave her the phone. That night, I used Mason's phone to text Mrs. Chen from the bathroom. She picked me up at midnight, let me sleep on her couch, and drove me to school Monday morning. This is escalating, she said. We need to consider getting protective services involved. No, I'm 18 in 6 weeks. I can survive 6 weeks. Can you? The honest answer was I didn't know. I moved through the next few days like a zombie.
Mom had my car, so I walked the 3 miles to and from school. She had my phone, so I was cut off from everything. She'd poisoned my friendship with Sarah. She'd locked down my college fund money. But she hadn't broken me. On Wednesday, Mr. Bernard pulled me aside. My brother-in-law, the lawyer, he says you have a case for financial abuse. The money your grandmother left was yours. Your mother had no right to use it without your permission for schooling you don't want. Can we get it back? Maybe, but it would mean suing your mother. I can't do that. I know, but I needed you to know you have options. Options. I was running out of those. That Thursday, I checked my email from the school library and found a message from Columbia's Dean of Admissions. Someone had sent them an email claiming I'd fabricated my application, that my achievements were exaggerated, that I was mentally unstable. The email had come from polaris@gmail.com. My own mother was trying to get my acceptance rescinded. I sat in that library, surrounded by books about faraway places, and realized this wasn't just about college anymore. This was about survival. Mom wasn't going to stop. She was going to destroy every opportunity, burn every bridge, sabotage every dream until I had no choice but to stay. 6 weeks until I was 18. 6 weeks until legal independence. I just had to survive 6 more weeks. But as I walked home that afternoon, 3 miles in the November cold, I wondered if 6 weeks might be too long. Mom's car was in the driveway when I arrived. I braced myself for whatever came next. The war had entered its most dangerous phase, and I was running out of ammunition. The email from Columbia arrived on a Tuesday morning, 3 weeks before my 18th birthday. Mrs. Chen's face went white as she read it on her computer screen. "Claire, you need to see this." I leaned over her desk, my stomach already churning. The subject line read, "Admission status review required." "Dear Miss Ford, we have received concerning communications regarding the validity of your application materials. While we take all such claims seriously, we must investigate allegations of fraudulent academic records and recommendation letters. Your admission status has been placed under review pending our investigation. You will be contacted within 14 business days with our decision. Please do not contact the admissions office during this time. Sincerely, Columbia University, Office of Admissions." "She did it," I whispered. "She actually did it." Mrs. Chen was already typing furiously. "I'm calling them right now. This is absurd. Your grades are verified through the school system. Your recommendations came directly from teachers." "It won't matter. Not if Mom keeps sending them things." And she did. Over the next week, Columbia received 3 more emails from concerned parties, all from different email addresses Mom had created. Each claimed something new, that I'd cheated on my SATs, that my debate team victories were fabricated, that Mrs. Chen was my aunt and had helped me cheat the system. Northwestern put my acceptance on hold too. Then Stanford. "This is systematic harassment," Mr. Bernard said during an emergency meeting in Mrs. Chen's office. "We need to get law enforcement involved." "No," I said flatly. "That makes it worse. Makes it look like I'm trying to cover something up." The investigation dragged on. Columbia requested official transcripts directly from the state education database. They wanted signed affidavits from my teachers. They demanded SAT score reports sent directly from the college board. Every request took time I didn't have. My 18th birthday came and went on December 3rd. No celebration, no cake, no acknowledgement from Mom. I spent it at Sarah's house. Her parents had finally agreed to let me visit after Mrs. Chen convinced them it was safe, filling out emergency housing forms and trying not to fall apart. "The schools will clear this up," Sarah insisted. "Your grades are real. Everything's documented." But doubt was creeping in. What if Columbia decided I was too much trouble? What if they rescinded my acceptance just to avoid the hassle? The breaking point came on December 10th. I was working the evening shift at Rosie's when Deputy Stevens came in, his face grim. "Claire, I need you to come with me." "What's wrong? Is it Mason?" "No, it's about some allegations your mother made. We need to talk at the station." The diner went silent. Every customer, every coworker, watching as I was escorted out by a sheriff's deputy. Small-town gossip would have this twisted into something unrecognizable by morning. At the station, I sat in an interview room, the same room where they questioned suspects.
while Deputy Stevens pulled out a file. "Your mother filed a report claiming you stole $5,000 from her." "What?" "The money from your grandmother's inheritance? She says you took it without permission and she wants it back." I laughed. Actually laughed. She's the one who took it. She used it to pay for state housing that I never agreed to. "Do you have proof she took it?" "I didn't even know the money existed until she told me she had spent it." Deputy Stevens sighed. "Claire, I've known your mother since high school. I know she's complicated. But legally, if she was the custodian of that account, it's a gray area. So I get investigated while she gets away with sabotaging my entire future? I'm not pressing charges, I just needed to document her complaint." "But Claire," he lowered his voice, "you need to be careful. She's not stable right now. People have seen her at the Rusty Nail until closing, heard her ranting about ungrateful daughters. She's making accusations to anyone who'll listen." I left the station to find Mom's car waiting in the parking lot. She got out, her face twisted with satisfaction. "Thought you were so smart, didn't you? Thought you could outsmart me. You filed a false police report against me. I filed a legitimate complaint about my daughter's theft. The fact that they didn't arrest you is a mercy you don't deserve." People were watching from the diner across the street, from the gas station, from everywhere. "Why are you doing this?" My voice cracked. "I'm your daughter." "You stopped being my daughter when you decided you were too good for this family." She stepped closer, and I could smell alcohol on her breath. "You want to know what I did today? I called every single college you applied to, Yale, Princeton, Harvard, all of them, told them the truth about what kind of person you really are." The world tilted. "You didn't." "Oh, I did, and I told them about your little affair with Mr. Bernard." "What affair?" "He's my teacher. He's married." "Doesn't matter what's true. Matters what they think. And now they think you've been sleeping with a teacher for recommendation letters."
"You're insane," I whispered. Her hand moved so fast I didn't see it coming. The slap echoed across the parking lot. Deputy Stevens came running out of the station. "Patricia, enough!" She got in her car and drove away, leaving me standing there with my cheek burning and my world in ashes. Deputy Stevens drove me to Mrs. Chen's house. I couldn't go back to Mom's, couldn't face her. Couldn't do anything but sit on Mrs. Chen's couch and stare at nothing. "We need to respond to these allegations immediately," Mrs. Chen said, her phone pressed to her ear as she called Columbia for the 5th time that week. But I knew the truth. It didn't matter how many times we told them Mom was lying. The damage was done. Every college would see a troubled applicant with a crazy family situation and think, too risky, too complicated, too much drama. That night, I checked my email from Mrs. Chen's laptop. Stanford had formally withdrawn my Questbridge scholarship pending resolution of concerning allegations. Northwestern had pushed my admission decision back to regular decision pools, meaning I was competing with thousands of new applicants. Columbia's message was the worst. "We are extending our investigation indefinitely. Your enrollment for the fall 2020 semester is not guaranteed." I was losing it all. The next morning, Principal Matthews called me into his office. Mr. Bernard was already there, looking devastated. "Claire, I'm being placed on administrative leave," he said. "Your mother's allegations, even though they're false, the district has to investigate." No, this isn't happening." "I'll be cleared," he assured me, "but it might take weeks, months." Mrs. Chen found me in the bathroom having a panic attack. "Breathe, Claire. Just breathe." "It's over. She won. I have nothing left." "You have the truth." "The truth doesn't matter. She's destroyed my reputation, my acceptances, my teacher's career, everything." That afternoon, I walked to the public library, the only place I could access the internet without Mom tracking me. I logged into my Columbia portal, expecting the worst. What I found was so much worse than I had imagined. My entire application had been flagged for fraud, every achievement questioned, every grade disputed. They were requesting I retake the SAT, submit to additional interviews, and provide character references from unbiased sources. Unbiased sources? In a town of 8,000 where my mother had spent the last month destroying my reputation. I pulled out the acceptance letters I kept hidden in my backpack, the copies I'd made months ago. They felt like artifacts from another life,
from a girl who believed dreams could come true. That girl felt like a stranger now. I walked home in the December cold, each step feeling like a march to my execution. Mom's car wasn't there. Mason was at basketball practice. The house was empty. I went to my room and pulled out the letter I'd written to Mom weeks ago, the one explaining my decision, asking for her understanding. I ripped it into tiny pieces and let them fall like snow. Then I pulled out my laptop and did something I never thought I'd do. I wrote to Oklahoma State University, accepting their offer of admission. My hands shook as I typed. Every word felt like a betrayal of the girl I'd been, the dreams I'd had, the future I'd fought for. But what choice did I have? Columbia was investigating me for fraud. Stanford had withdrawn their scholarship. Northwestern had pushed my admission decision back to regular decision pools. My teachers were under investigation. My reputation was destroyed. State was all I had left. I hit send before I could change my mind. It was done. Mom had won. I curled up on my bed and cried until I had nothing left. Then I cried some more. The girl who was going to escape to New York, who was going to prove that girls from nowhere could become someone, who was going to show Mason a different path, that girl was dead. In her place was just another Riverside statistic, another dream deferred, another girl who'd aimed too high and learned her lesson. As darkness fell outside my window, I heard Mom's car pull into the driveway. Heard her singing, actually singing, as she walked into the house. She'd won. And I'd lost everything. Or so I thought. What I didn't know, what I couldn't have known in that moment of absolute despair, was that the darkest hour comes just before dawn. And my dawn was about to break in the most unexpected way.
The envelope arrived at Mrs. Chen's house on December 15th, sent via overnight express mail. She called me immediately. "Claire, you need to get here now." I'd been living in a fog for the past 5 days since accepting state, going through motions, avoiding everyone, planning for a future that felt like a prison sentence. When I arrived at Mrs. Chen's house, she was standing on her porch with tears streaming down her face. "What's wrong?" Panic seized me. "Did someone else get hurt? Is it Mason?" She shook her head and handed me the envelope. "Read it." The return address made my heart stop. Columbia University, Office of the President. With shaking hands, I opened it. Dear Ms. Ford, I am writing to you personally regarding the investigation into your admission status. After thorough review of all materials, including the malicious communications we received, I want to inform you that your admission to Columbia University stands fully reinstated. Furthermore, I want to apologize for the distress this investigation has caused. It became clear to our office that you were the victim of systematic harassment designed to sabotage your educational opportunities. The communications we received were traced to multiple fake email accounts, all originating from the same IP address in Riverside, Oklahoma. We have documentation of similar emails sent to Stanford, Northwestern, Yale, Princeton, and Harvard. We have contacted all these institutions to share our findings. The FBI's Cybercrime Division has been notified of this coordinated harassment campaign. Ms. Ford, in my 40 years in higher education, I have never seen a student fight harder for their education or overcome more obstacles. Your transcripts, test scores, and recommendations speak for themselves. You are exactly the kind of student Columbia seeks. Your full scholarship has been increased to include a special Presidential Emergency Fund grant of $10,000 for personal expenses. We want to ensure nothing prevents you from joining us next fall. Welcome to Columbia. We cannot wait to see what you will achieve. Sincerely, Dr. Margaret Hamilton, President, Columbia University. I read it 3 times, then collapsed into Mrs. Chen's arms, sobbing. "She didn't win," Mrs. Chen whispered. "Claire, she didn't win." The FBI. Columbia had reported Mom to the FBI for cyber harassment.
Within hours, more emails arrived. Stanford reinstated my Questbridge scholarship with an apology. Northwestern not only admitted me, but offered an additional scholarship. Yale and Princeton, schools I'd given up on, sent acceptance letters with full financial aid packages. Every school Mom had tried to poison against me had instead rallied to my defense. That evening, Deputy Stevens came to Mrs. Chen's house with a different expression than before. "Claire, federal agents are at your house. They're executing a search warrant for electronic devices. Your mother has been informed that charges may be filed for identity theft, cyberstalking, and interference with educational opportunities." "What does that mean?" "It means she could face federal prison time. They take this stuff seriously." I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I felt sick. "Is Mason okay?" "He's with Child Protective Services temporarily." "I need to see him." "That can be arranged." They let me visit Mason at a foster home 2 hours away. He was pale but unharmed, sitting in a bedroom that wasn't his, surrounded by belongings that weren't his. "Is it true?" he asked. "Did Mom really do all that stuff?" "Yeah, Mace, she did. The FBI agents showed me the emails. She wrote that you—" He couldn't finish. How could she make up stuff like that about her own daughter? I sat beside him. "She's sick, Mace. Has been for a long time." "Are you going to press charges?" The question hung between us. Federal prosecutors had already told me they had enough evidence without my testimony, but my cooperation would strengthen the case. "I don't know." "She tried to destroy your life." "I know, but she's still our mom." Mason was quiet for a long moment. "You're still going to Columbia, right? You're not going to stay because of this?" "I'm going." He nodded, trying to be brave. "Good. Someone should get out." "You will too, Mace. I promise. I'll make sure you get out too." The next week was a whirlwind. Mom was arrested and charged with multiple federal cybercrimes. The district attorney added identity theft and fraud charges related to my grandmother's inheritance. She faced up to 15 years in prison. Mr. Bernard was fully cleared and returned to teaching. The first thing he did was write me another recommendation letter, this time for graduate school scholarships I wouldn't need for years.
Sarah's parents apologized for abandoning me. The whole town seemed to collectively realize they'd watched a mother try to destroy her daughter and done nothing. But the biggest surprise came on Christmas Eve. I was at Mrs. Chen's house. She'd unofficially become my guardian when there was a knock at the door. It was Mom's lawyer. "Miss Ford, your mother wants to speak with you." "I don't think that's a good idea." "She's agreed to plead guilty to all charges if you'll hear her out. Just 5 minutes." Against my better judgment, I agreed. They brought Mom to a meeting room at the county jail. She looked older, smaller somehow, defeated. "Claire," she started, her voice hoarse, "I'm not going to ask for forgiveness. I don't deserve it." I waited. "I need you to know something. When I found out I was pregnant with you, I was accepted to Johns Hopkins. Full scholarship. My ticket out of this town. Out of this life. Mom! Let me finish. I chose to keep you. I chose to stay. And I've resented that choice every single day for 18 years. It wasn't your fault. It was mine. But I blamed you anyway." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "When I saw you getting everything I lost, the acceptances, the scholarships, the future, I couldn't stand it. I wanted you to fail, wanted you to be trapped like me. Because if you succeeded, it meant I could have too, that all my suffering was for nothing. Mom, you could have still—" "No, I made my choices, and then I spent 18 years making you pay for them." She wiped her eyes. "I'm going to prison, Claire, but before I go, I need you to know you were right to fight, right to leave, right to choose yourself.
I never wanted to choose between you and my dreams. I know, but I made you, and I'm sorry. It wasn't enough. Could never be enough to undo the damage, but it was something. I'm not dropping the charges, I said quietly. What you did was wrong. I know. I deserve whatever I get. She paused. But Claire, make something of that Columbia degree. Prove that at least one of us didn't waste our potential. That was the last time I saw my mother as a free woman. She pleaded guilty to all charges in January. The judge sentenced her to 5 years in federal prison. Mason came to live with Sarah's family. They'd agreed to foster him until he graduated high school. I made sure every penny of my emergency grant went to supporting him. In August 2020, I stood in front of Butler Library at Columbia University, my suitcases beside me, the New York City skyline stretching endlessly above. Mrs. Chen had driven me there herself. How do you feel? Terrified? Excited? Free? That's exactly right. She hugged me tight. Make her pride mean something, Claire. Make your own life mean everything. I walked into that library and didn't look back. 4 years later, I graduated summa cum laude with a degree in political science. Mason visited for the ceremony, now a junior in high school with straight A's and his own college dreams. Mom was released from prison during my senior year. We spoke once, briefly. She'd started taking responsibility, going to therapy, facing what she'd done. It would take years to rebuild anything resembling a relationship. Maybe we never would. But that was okay. Because I'd learned a hardest lesson of all. Sometimes loving someone means choosing yourself anyway. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is refuse to be trapped by someone else's broken dreams. I'm Claire Ford. I came from Riverside, Oklahoma, population 8,000, where dreams go to die. But I didn't die there, and neither will my brother. Because someone has to break the cycle. Someone has to prove that girls from nowhere can become someone. Someone has to keep the copies when others try to throw away your future. That someone was me. And my story? It's just beginning.
Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hits the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.